Alright people, I just discovered the button which allows me to go full screen with my face and then shrink myself back down and go full screen with my face again. What I want to do today is talk a little bit about some things I've referenced in class, as well as the assignment, which is to show 50 to 100 examples of running some code. So it's very important that when you're programming, or heck, for anything in life, start experimenting. Fail a lot. If you're not failing, you're not trying. If you're not trying, you really don't deserve to be doing whatever it is you're doing. If you think about anything worth doing, any skill, whether it's juggling or backflips or driving or learning to write, handwrite, learning to keyboard type, pretty much any skill takes a lot of practice. And we somehow have this idea when we get to school that we ought to be able to sit down, look at an equation or look at an assignment and just do it the first time. Well, that's not how it works. So once you do things enough times, I've heard it has to be 27 times for a human being, then you kind of get a feel of things. So programming works that way. Once I know that I can do 2 times 2 in a code window and it'll give me 4, and once I learn that with one language, I can pretty much adapt that to almost every other language. Some of the basic constructs like math in particular work that way. Others not so much. So I want to illustrate how I'd like you to experiment. Now this demonstration is for JavaScript, but you should be able to apply it to Python, to PHP, to many others, and in fact I'll probably make a similar recording for the Web 250 Database-Driven Websites class showing how you can do it with PHP, and I'm actually going to pull the examples from a site meant to teach Python. So I'm going right to Google and I search on computer science circles, and it takes me to this site, cscircles.cemc.uwaterloo.ca, which is Canada. And I go right to this cheat sheet. So this is a website for teaching Python. If you're taking CS 115, for example, it might be very helpful. Let me move all this stuff down so it looks a little more like I'm looking you in the eye. And I'm just going to click the cheat sheet. And I'd referenced this in one of the earlier recordings and was not actually able to find it back then. And here we have it. I did talk about this in class recently. So this is, as it says here, a subset of Python syntax we use in our lessons reordered. This is a printable PDF. And you have an assignment, this particular, spring of 2013, if you happen to be watching it then, was to go help make this cheat sheet. So I wanted you to put similar stuff to this. So let's just walk down the list of things. I'm going to show you how we would test that out in JavaScript. So looking at these top items here, 3 star 4, which is the same as 3 times 4, the result is over here, is 12. 3 plus 4, the result 7. 3 minus 4, the result is minus 1. And 3 divided by 4, the result is 0.75. Now any of you who have taken Java realize that it's not quite that simple. If you do 3 divided by 4 in Java, depending on how you declared your variables, you may not get exactly what you expect. So 3 divided by 4 may be different from 3 divided by 4.0. So these are the kind of things we want to experiment. So we're going to use this just as kind of the fuel for our experimentation. So you may remember I said F12 in Chrome, and that's where I am now. F12 actually opens up the this console. Of course, this machine is not cooperating. So what I'm going to do here is go and click Properties, or I'll do Inspect Element, and that gives me this window here, and then I can go and click Console over here. Also, it made it a lot bigger than I wanted, so I want you to still see those items, and I'll just leave that open. And this gives me a little console. By the same token, I can go over to codecademy.com, excuse me, and get rid of that A, Codecademy, and we can go right to JavaScript here, and we have the same essential console here. So let's have a look. If we did something like 3 star 4, look, we get 12. 3 minus 4, we get minus 1. 3 divided by 4, we get 0.79. What if we do 3 divided by 4.0? We get 0.75. Forgive me, my camera's blocking me here, so I'm going to move that up just a little bit. And so that's the kind of experimentation I'm talking about. So in this case, I've already done 4 examples. For your homework, I wanted 50 or more. What I really want you to do is just get in the habit of experimenting. And I'm going to go back to doing that in the console here in Chrome because, hey, it's there. I can leave the 2 windows split like this. It's pretty easy to do. So let's just go through. I'm going to go through the examples right top to bottom. Chances are this is monkey work for you, no big deal, but it allows us to experiment with things and learn a little in the process. So 3 star 4, result is 12. Okay, 3 space star space 4. 12. 3 star space 4. So from that we can deduce that really spaces don't make any difference. What if I do 3 space, star, space, 4. Bam, still works, right? So seems to be ignoring spaces. What if I do 3, enter? Oh, it just gives 3 back. So I can't really do that. What if I do 3, shift, enter, which basically goes to a new line without hitting enter, and then star, shift, enter, and then 4, enter, still 12, right? So even line breaks don't matter as long as in this case we don't hit enter. So we could also try parentheses 3 plus 4. It's going to be the same. We can try order of precedence, which you all remember from, I don't know, elementary school. If we do 3 times 4 minus 3, well, you expect the multiplication to happen first, so you get 12 minus 3 gives you 9, and that's right. What if we do 3 minus 3 times 3, right? We expect 3 minus 3 would happen after 3 times 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. 3 minus 9 is going to be negative 6. Sure enough, we get that. You should never code in a way that you're wondering what happens first. So even though we know what's going to happen here, you should code this as 3 minus 3 times 3. And notice for style purposes, I really like to have the spaces in there. I don't like when they're jammed together. Okay, so we've done these couple. What about this division? 3 divided by 4 gives us 0.75. What about 3 divided by 4.0? 0.75. What about 3.0 divided by 4? So it's giving us decimal math, which is good. Let's go on to the next group. 3 star star 4. So what is that? Well, it says the result is 81. We talked about this in class. That's actually 3 raised to the 4th. Can I do 3 star star 4? Nah, Java has no idea what I'm talking about in that case. So well, how do we do exponents? I want to raise 3 to the 4th in JavaScript. So I'll go over to my friend Google and exponents in JavaScript. And I'm taken right to JavaScript exponents, Stack Overflow, the POW method. There's lots of the math functions. And hey, look, since this is W3 schools that we know and use, I'll go right there. And here we do math.pow 4, 3, which is in this case 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And we can actually try that here. So there's another place we could try it out. But in this case, that's more complicated than the way we were trying it out. So look again, what does it say? Math.pow. Well, what is this? Well, math, notice how it's an uppercase noun. That's basically a class, and a class is a category. So if you say, for example, a Ford Taurus is the best-selling car in its class, what you're saying is that category. So it might be full-size sedans, right? So this is a category of code that's more or less a utility. The dot tells us, I can zoom way in on this, the dot tells us that this is a possession of that. So POW is part of math, and what it stands for is power, as in exponents. So math dot says here comes something that belongs to math, so it's part of it, and then we give it what are called arguments as parameters. So arguments and parameters, we're going to see a little bit, they are kind of interchangeable, although they have subtly different meanings. But those are things that you give that function that it will process and then give back something else. So POW expects to get 2 numbers, and it probably expects to get 2 integers. The first one is the value the other one's raised to, and I take that back, probably not integers, it could be decimals or anything else, because they can do any kind of math they want, right? So in this case, we're giving it 4 and 3, and the result is 64. So let's go back and test that. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to type math, and notice how something popped up there. It said match media. So I type math, and then it goes away, and I do math.pow, and let's do 3, 4, and nothing happens. It says math is not defined. Well, what could be going on there? Well, now this is where the attention to detail really comes in when you're doing code. I've talked about this for those who were in class, but I don't remember if it was on the recording. There's a difference between math lowercase m and math uppercase. Notice the color difference? So math is a math constructor. So I have to do math dot, and now as soon as I do dot, this whole list pops up, and this is a nice advantage of the console in Chrome. It gives us all the different functions we can do with math, and includes square root, tangent, sine, round, random, value of, toString. Well, what is toString? I don't know, but I know it's there. Actually, I do know, but you might not know. And logarithms, and natural log, and pi. Well, what about pi? What happens if we type pi? Doesn't work. Well, what was going on? I saw pi there. Math.p. There's POW, property is enumerable. Where's the pi? Once again, uppercase. So P, I, hit enter, that's pi. Okay, let's try the other one. Math dot pow, open parentheses, we'll do 3 comma 4, we get 81, which back to up here, sure enough, 81. Okay, what's this 3 slash slash 4? So I'll do 3 slash slash 4, gives me 3. What does that mean? Well, if I do 3 divided by 4, up here 3 slash slash 4 gives 0. So what is that doing? Well, we got to learn what it does in Python in order to learn what it does in JavaScript. It seems to be doing something. So how do we figure it out? Well, if times in Python raises it, maybe that, I don't really know. So I'll look it up and say what is slash slash in Python. And again, I don't expect you to go quite to this level of detail, but if you wanted to follow the tutorial and make sure we'd covered all the examples, here we go. Floor division, the division of operands where the result is the quotient in which the digits after the decimal point are removed. So 9 divided by 2 is equal to 4, and 9 divided 2 is equal to 4. So basically, it's tossing out the remainder, right? So that's fancy words for the result is the quotient in which the digits after the decimal point are removed, right? So basically, it's going to give us a whole number. So can we do that in JavaScript? Do we care? Do we want to follow that example? And let's test that idea. 3 divided by 4 with no remainder would indeed give us 0 when I divide 3 by 4 here. So I'm not aware of a function like that. Is there equivalent? It's kind of obscure, and I don't know why you'd want to lose the data, so I'm not going to worry about that. What about this one? 3 percentage 4. Well, it gives 3. Well, what is this percentage? We all know what a percent is in math, but actually this has a special meaning in programming, and it's called modulus. Well, how does modulus work? It's basically you take a number like, let's say we do 4 divided by 4. Well, that's 1. If we do 8 divided by 4, that's going to be 2. We do 12 divided by 4, that's going to be 3. Now let's take a slightly different example. 5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 one time, but there's 1 left over, right? So we get an odd number. But let's go 5 modulus 4, and we get 1, which is the remainder. If we do 8 modulus 4, 4 goes into it evenly, so there's no remainder. But if we do 9 modulus 4, we get 1 left over. If we do 10 modulus 4, we're going to have 2 left over. We do 11, we're going to have 3. Whoops, no, because I did 12. We do 11, we're going to get 3 left over. We did 12 and we had 0. So that's a great way to find the remainder. Now, why would you care? Well, let's say at a large number like $12.54, right? And you want to find out how many dimes fit in there or what's left over for pennies. So you do modulus. Actually, in this case, we'd be better off doing 12.54 pennies, right? And you want to figure out, that's a lot of pennies, right? So that's $12, but we can divide by quarters, say modulus 25, and the remainder is 3 cents. So we could give it all out in quarters and then have 3 cents left over. Normally what you do in this case is you'd start out by getting, first you'd give a $10 bill and a $2 bill and so on. So we do modulus 53 of $10 bill, which is 1,000 pennies, right? So we do modulus of 1,000 pennies, and then 253 is what's left over. So then we'd go to $5 bill, that won't fit in it. Then we go to a $1 bill, so 253 modulus 100 pennies gives us 53 cents left over, and then we go to quarters, so 53. And this is a common exercise people do, is figure out change. How many nickels, dimes, quarters do you have to give? And we can do this all in our head, but that's really what our brain is doing. And then we'll do 25 cents, gives us 3 cents over, and then that's what we're left with pennies. So what about order of operations? Again, these are all the rules you got from math. If it's not obvious, you need to make it obvious. So without worrying too much about these, you should definitely put parentheses and things like that to know what sequence it's going to go into. What about this min 3, 4, and max? Well, if we type min 3, 4, fails to work. But remember that math thing? Math dot, and then, oh look, max and min. So let's try max. I'll put 13 and 12. What do I get? 13. How about math.min 13, 12, and I get 12. Will it take more than one value? Math.min 1, 12, 13, 14, 2, -1. Wow, it works for a larger group. So how many could it take? What are things can we do? We don't know exactly. We can try math.min, or we can go math. And scroll down through here. And unfortunately, this doesn't actually give us the usage of it. But we could find lots of other examples, look it up in a JavaScript library or something like that. All right, so notice just in this time, I've got quite a few examples here. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually have 50. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So not quite 50, especially if you don't count the errors, although I do want you to make errors. I don't really want to count. So let's keep on going down our list. Again, be in the habit of experimenting. Okay, type 3. Okay, I'll try type 3. Nothing there. Okay, type. I saw something pop up. Type of. If I do that. Hey, 3 is a number. Type of S. Undefined. Okay, type of dog. It's a string. Okay, type of, let's try math dot pi. No, we'll do math dot pi. And that's a number. Okay, that makes sense. So that lets us figure out what kind of things are. And I wonder if it's any different if we do type of like 4.0, 4.2. That's also numbers. So far strings and numbers are all we get. In this case, Python does, that's an integer, and that's, I think, does it go over anywhere? That's just a class of float. It's a little bit wider. And I want to get this centered right on the screen so you can see it all. And in this case, we do int 4 plus 0. Okay, what is that? What's going on with that little case there? If we type, well, the result here is 4o. If we do int 4 plus o, well, what about all this plus? So let's try 4 plus o is 4. 4 plus 0.0 is 4. 4.2 plus, let's try 0.8 is 5. 4.2 plus 0.9. So it doesn't seem to have too much trouble, so though you see it can't do exactly 5.2, or 4.2 would be 4.2 plus 0.9 should be 5.1, but it has a rounding error, so it goes all the way out and puts this 5 there. So that shows you how computers are not always exact, and that's a problem that we sometimes have to deal with. What about hello? If I type hello, no luck. Type yo, no luck. I put quotes yo, that works. I put single quote yo, that also works. What if I put double quote yo plus single quote yo, gives us yo-yo. Okay, that works. What if I do quote yo times 3? Not a number, so it doesn't like that. What if I do 3 times yo? Whoops. 3 times yo, not a number. What if I do 3 plus yo? Hey, that works. 3 plus single quote yo, that also works. So we can add a number to a string, but it doesn't actually do math. It just treats the number as a string. What if we do yo plus, come on, 3? That does this, so it works both ways. We can add a string to a number to a string. What it does is it basically converts them both to strings. Ran into something when I was messing around the other day. If we do alert yo plus 3, that gives us this pop-up. What if we do, we're going to set up a variable answer equals prompt how many cats do you own? Question mark, close quote, close And now that, how many cats do you want? I own 33 cats. I hit OK, and now the answer there, ANSWER, is equal to 33. But notice that that's string around it. So what if we do answer times 3 gives us 99. So even though it is a string, it was able to figure out the math. So I'll write prompt, get another cat, and you'll have, and then I'll put answer plus 1. Right? So it should say 33 plus 1 will give us something else. And get another cat and you'll have 331. Now what I wanted 34. So what's going on there? Well, in this case, and by the way, since I didn't set prompt equal to anything here, it's not putting the value anywhere. So no matter what I type here, it's just going to disappear. In this case, it shows it on the screen, but we didn't save it into a variable. So somehow it gave me 331 instead of 34. Well, why is that? So let's do a prompt again. And instead of prompt, I meant to do alert. So alert is one way. Prompt wants it to get a response. Answer plus 1. Well, how do I get it to treat that as math? What if I do this first? I'm going to put that around there. So answer was 33.1, so it should say 34. No, 331 plus, I have that space there. I hit the up, I hit OK, and down here I'm going to do the up arrow, which causes the same thing to recur. So, well, first I'm going to put a space there, and then try it again. At least it's spaced right. It still says 331. I want 34. So before we saw that I could do the math, so I could get the value of answer. We have the value of answer, and I can test it. Answer is 33. And I can put next number of cats equals answer plus 1. And now I have 3. Wait a minute. So is it a string or not? We saw before that I could do answer plus 1. Wait a minute. Wasn't answer 33? And wasn't 33 answer? Wait a minute. So now I have to go back and I say, wait a minute. What's going on here? Didn't I have a long time ago when I started doing all that, I said, going through the numbers, how many cats do you own? I put 33, and it was an answer. And then I typed answer, and it gave me 33, and I answered times 3, and it worked. So what's going on here? Let's try again. This time I'm going to put 22. No, that doesn't matter. We'll do that all over again. Answer, how many cats do you own? And I'm going to change answer to be I, so it's I want it to be actually it's a string when it comes in. Number cats. So we'll do S cat count. How many cats do you own? 12. Okay, I type S cat count, and it gives me 12. Okay, if I do S cat count plus plus, that it should add 1, but it didn't. Okay, I'll do up. Maybe I need a space there. 13, so that works. So plus plus is a way of incrementing by 1. That has to be right next to the number for it to work. What if I do minus minus? You can probably guess. 14. S cat count 13. S cat count 13. So minus minus seems to have added 1, but it said 14, and then when I did it again it said 13. So that's a little bit mysterious. Cat count minus minus 13 again. S cat count 12. So what does minus minus do? Well, it subtracts it, but only after it's done what it wanted to do. So I'd say avoid that because that's pretty problematic. But you know it does something. So we may have seen plus plus in a loop. So the whole idea here is I don't expect you to absorb all this, but there's a number of examples here where you're kind of learning what works and what doesn't. And the only way to know, to have confidence, to be able to come back and try this. You think it will work? Try it. When in doubt, make it less doubtful. Figure out what to make it reliable. So in this case, I've got scat count, and it seems to be a number, and I put scat count plus 1 gives me 13, and I go back to that earlier. I'm just hitting the up arrow. I say prompt, and I'm going to change the answer to scat count, and whoops, I didn't even mean to do the prompt. I meant to do the alert, right? get another cat, and you'll have scat count plus 1. And so there I have 13. So that seemed to help, although I am a little nervous about this. I feel like JavaScript's a little bit sloppy with this. So what happened in the first place? We put, we'll prompt, how many cats do you own? And I'll put 10. I mean, less and less cats, they're all dying. And now I have scat count. And then I go prompt the alert, and now it says 101. So now it's broken again. What the heck, right? So it seems that it sometimes is arbitrary. How does it know whether it's a number or a string? And this is one of the problems with these kind of loose languages like this, is you don't really know. So sometimes it makes things easier, but you're never really sure. So what do we do to make sure that that comes in as a number? Well, what we can do is actually cast it. So how do we make it be an integer? And this goes back to what we have up here. See how it says 4 plus 0? Well, it's really adding the string 4, the character 4, to the character 0. But then putting the int in front of the parentheses around it, you're basically giving it to this thing that converts it to an integer. This one, see how it says float 3, is telling it to become a decimal. And this one, string 1 over 2, is saying convert this to a string, which in this case 1/2 equals 0.5. So let's try those things out. If we take int dog, doesn't work. If we take int 8, well, oh wait, I gotta remember, I'm working Python. This is not Python, this is JavaScript. So I have to figure out how to do the same thing in JavaScript. What about that math thing? Math dot in. Let's see, that's not working. Convert. What about the options? Is there something that would convert? Sign, round, random, town, to string. Well, if I do math.toString and I put 33, well, that doesn't work. Why? Because toString is different as from string. What if I do math.toString 33? What if I do var x equals math.toString 33, and then I type x? So that's not working either. So that's when we go to Google and we say, okay, how are we going to do this? By the way, we can also, so it's careful. You got to realize we're using Python as kind of a prompt to give us the examples of what we can do. And each time we run into something different, we look at how we can experiment and do something else, right? So I'll say, okay, JavaScript convert, and look, the string to number. It's one of the first ones we hit, right? String to number conversion. And oh, we have a thing called parse int and parse float. So parse int goes from string to integer, and parse float is floating point number. How does it work? Well, here's some examples. I want some examples of parse int. So these are numbers we get, and it converts them into a number. So we get them as a string, and it converts them to numbers. Notice in this case it chops off that. So we can actually try those examples. I'm going to pull this window out into another window, get it to where you can see those examples. I'll move this over. Well, I'm going to make this window smaller. Too many windows. And I'll try parse. Oh, look, it pops right up. Parse int. And then I'll give it 33. And parse is not defined. Parse, I have to actually type parse int. Some IDEs, they automatically pick the one for you. I'll do 33. And that works. I'll do it again, and this time I'll do 33.33. And that cuts off that. I'll do parse float. And then I'll try 33. And parse float 33.3. Keeps that. And so we've seen those examples. What about, like, why was I doing this in the first place? I was looking at getting 33 to be a string. So we saw how to convert a string to an integer. How do we convert an integer to a string? So JavaScript convert number, or we had this example down here, int to string, right? String to number. Hello. Is it thinking, or did I kill it? I may have killed it. Try again. Kick in the pants. To string method. Back to W3 schools. Control 0 puts it normal size. So we have num is a variable name, we might assign it. And then we put num dot to string on that item. So let's go back. What was our variable up here? We had a variable called x. Or no, it wasn't x. It was so if we find, I'll start fresh to keep it clean. We'll just do var s for string equals 33. Actually, I'm sorry, we're not doing a string, we're doing an integer. Equals 33. And so we do I equals 33. What we can do now is do I dot. We look over at the example here. We do I dot to string. So we look here. I dot to. Notice it pops up as an example. To string. We just put the parentheses. So it's calling a function that belongs to I, which is an integer. And that converts it. You see now we have the quotes, and so that becomes a string. So we go back to our example. I'll do it one more time, and then I think I've got 50. Is we say, okay, var s input input equals prompt. How many kids do you have? Put the space. I'm in quote. And now, how many kids do you have? I have 5 kids. And we put s input is 5. And then I want to do a prompt. The prompt next year you will have, and then we put plus s input plus 1 plus kids. Now, so hopefully you can predict what I might run into here. A couple things, both with formatting and the numbers. So I enter it, and unexpected token is illegal. Oh, I got to close out my quotes here. 51 kids. So you see the problem I have. So how do I fix that? Well, first of all, I didn't want a prompt. I wanted an alert. So let's go fix that. I keep making that mistake. I could also do console.log. So let's do that instead. We'll do up arrow. Instead of alert, I'm just going to do console.log. And am I doing it wrong? Console.log, I feel dumb. Console, is it console.log? Yes, so it says next year you have 51 kids. So how do we fix that? And based on what you just discovered, we do s input dot to, what was it? To string over here. To string. And to keep it super clean, actually I take that back. It's not to string because that's a number and we want it to be a number. But somehow it wasn't doing the math. So we'll put parentheses around that. And then we'll try it again. Same problem. So we have to take it a little further. So how do we make s input an integer? And what did we do in that case? We did s input dot to, s input dot parse int. Now I've forgotten already. So I got to go back, find that earlier example, and number to string conversion, string to number conversion, string and number conversions. So convert a string into a number, and after a while you just get good at figuring these out. So what was it? Parse int, right? S input plus parse int parse. I can't remember what it was. So JavaScript, script, convert number, string to number. And we did this a minute ago, and we want, I don't like those, and yes, this is awkward, but I don't want to just give you the answer, because first of all I forget between different languages, but it's all about looking it up. It's not necessarily about memorizing it. So JavaScript parse int function, try that, which we were looking at a minute ago, and here we go, parse int. That's when we want to go to a string to a number. So that should work. I'm not sure why it didn't pop up for me. So I do parse int, and I put s input into the parentheses. In other words, I'm giving it, it's going to convert that. And then we do the rest of our math. And next year you will have 6 kids, and then we add a little space here. And now it's good. But let me tell you how that should be done to avoid the confusion here. What we really should do here is we should make a new variable. We've got this value which is s input, right? S input. And s input is 5, but it's a string. So what we really should do is we should say s next count of kids. And we're going to make it, we're going to say I because we want it to be an integer. And this is set equal to 1 plus s input. We can test this to see that didn't work because it's put 15. So now we do it again and we do, what was it, parse int, do 1 plus parse int s input, right? And that'll give us 6. Or even better, we could say I input. This is really clean, like step by step. We do I input equals parse int s input. So what we're doing there is converting it from the string to the integer. So now s input is 5 string, I input is 5 integer, and then we say next year I next count equals I input plus 1, and now we have 6, and then we can go back to our prompt, our console, and say next year you will have, get rid of all that math, you don't want to do that math in there, and put I next count. So next year you'll have 6 kids. So that's a kind of laborious way of doing it, but it's the clean way to do it. And you'll see some examples if you look in this week's sample code. I was talking about, some complexity things with a student, and you really want to break each step down one at a time. And you only get comfortable by doing a lot of this. There are more examples. Hopefully you can figure out all these string examples and put them into the cheat sheet. Now in this particular case, I have never tried to copy and paste this because for your submission of your 50 or more examples, you want to actually do that. So here's a test. Would be good to try this ahead of time. When I highlight here, I go all the way down, copy, and then I'm just going to open up like Notepad and see if these actually paste in. Control V, and indeed they do. So you could turn this in as that assignment. You could count your lines. In this case, I have, I'm pretty sure I have plenty, but that's kind of the example I'm looking for. And this is what I would like you to do. Anytime you run into something, you don't know what it is, play with it, experiment with it, imprint it in your minds. You're completely comfortable working with these things. So I realize it's been a fairly long video. If you already knew all this stuff, you probably didn't watch through it. If you didn't, you probably need to watch it about 8 times. Please post questions on the forum, and thanks for watching. Deep sigh.